Francine, let's start with you. I mean, do you welcome this change of advice?
Well, we do welcome the advice. It's very clear. It's saying to all healthcare professionals that they need to sit down with new parents and tell them that there is a link to SIDS if you co-sleep.
Which is sudden instant death syndrome.
Sudden infant death syndrome,
yeah.
absolutely. And it's a great opportunity for healthcare professionals to talk to parents with newborns about the risks. And these guidelines are very, very clear that it's important that parents are informed about the link between SIDS and co-sleeping.
Informed, but maybe worrying, Sarah? Too much information for a new mum to take on board? How do you interpret it?
Do you know, I almost think there's not enough information. I think this sort of quite a sweeping statement of don't do it with a baby under 1 could actually cause more...
And it's changed, hasn't it? We have to say from 6 months or even younger.
6 or 8 weeks, up to
okay.
1. I'm concerned now that parents are going to be so terrified by it that they're not going to seek out safer ways to bed share, that they may get exhausted, they may fall asleep accidentally on the sofa or accidentally in the bed, and when that's not planned, they're at much greater risk than if they plan and follow safety guidelines. However, there are no safety guidelines in the NICE guidance, so where do the people go to look for them? If they're not asking their health professionals or if they're not in the NICE guidelines, I'm very concerned that people will think it's always dangerous and accidents will happen.
And maybe, Francine, not fib gently when being questioned by their health visitor. Well, are you sharing a bed with your baby because you really shouldn't? Oh no, of course I'm not doing something.
Well, the role of the health visitor is to sit down with the parent and tell them about the risks. And obviously each family is different and there'll be different circumstances, and the health visitor or the midwife or the GP will pick up on that. But I think the most important thing to understand is that there is a link between co-sleeping and SIDS, and basically all parents need to understand that. Then they make the decision with their health professional about how best to care and sleep with their baby if that's what they choose to do.
What would be more helpful, Sarah, in your opinion?
To have very clear guidelines of how to reduce the risk if that's what they choose to do. There are cultural reasons people may choose to bed share. We know breastfeeding and bed sharing go together perfectly. If somebody's breastfeeding and they want to bed share to initiate breastfeeding and also to keep it going, for them to have clear guidelines to say, this is how you reduce the risks, that's what they need, that's what we're missing today.
And is that missing? I mean, what are the answers to those questions?
Well, we have very clear guidelines on our Lullaby Trust website, and we clearly say to parents, if you decide or you choose to co-sleep with your baby, then there are certain precautions you can take to reduce the risk. But for example, don't allow loose bedding to cover the baby's head, because if the baby gets too hot, then there are dangers associated with that, and potentially the baby could suffocate. So there's some very practical things we can tell parents to reduce the risk, but the main point that we want to get across today is there is a link between co-sleeping and SIDS, and we can't get away from that.
And it's better to know than not, isn't it,
Absolutely,
Sarah?
And it's very important to differentiate between co-sleeping and bed sharing. Co-sleeping includes sofas, which is highly dangerous, and I would never advocate anybody would do that. But planned bed sharing following guidelines is not a risk.